Hello, welcome to Season 7 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, our theme is the current state of horror. We'll be watching 20 or so movies from the last couple of years, reviewing them like normal, and then also talking about some of the larger trends we see. If you want to see the list and follow along, check out our website at thehorrific.com. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. So I did some reading about Neon. That's the distribution company that put this movie out. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize this. It was founded in 2017 by Tom Quinn and Tim League, who was also a co-founder of the Alamo Drafthouse movie chain.
Seriously?
Yeah. So
awesome.
Yeah, one of the co-founders of Alamo is a co-founder of Neon Film Distribution as well, which is kind of cool.
You know what that means? We gotta like the movie even more.
Exactly. Yeah. We, in our ongoing attempt to get a sponsorship from Alamo, we have to. We're contractually obligated to be super positive on this one.
Yeah. So it's the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think we just leave it at that.
Yep. But it is interesting though, because I was thinking when I saw that logo in the beginning that Neon has been behind a lot of movies that I've seen and enjoyed. And I was like, man, it seems like a lot of those were advertised really heavily at Alamo, and now that makes way more sense. So,
yeah.
But
that's a smart move, though.
Yeah.
You know, you own something like that, you might as well own both of them.
Yeah, get involved in like more aspects of the business. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, this week we watched The Lodge, and I saw this one at Alamo Drafthouse, and it was the last movie I saw before everything shut down.
Really?
Yeah, so it was just earlier this year, and Sarah and I went on a Wednesday night. We just randomly were like, yeah, let's go out and do something. Went to the movie, like, maybe, I think it was the next week that, like, the stay-at-home order went into effect.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's good, though. Yeah, one less horror movie in at the theater before we got locked down.
Yeah. Well, and I think this one was a really good one to see in a theater as well. It was, just with it being dark and quiet and sort of the ambient noise and everything, it was cool. But anyway, I will introduce it and then we'll get into it.
Sounds bueno.
In 2020, Neon brought us The Lodge, a psychological horror film written and directed by Severin Fiala and Veronica Franz. If those names sound familiar, that's probably because the duo also wrote and directed Goodnight Mommy, which we discussed in a past episode. The Lodge has a similar tone and tells the story of a woman named Grace and her soon-to-be stepchildren spending the Christmas holiday together in a remote cabin in the middle of a snowstorm. As the story unfolds, you find out more about Grace's dark past and the hold that it still has on her. This movie initially premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January of 2019 and then made a little over $2.5 million at the box office in a limited theatrical release in 2020. It can currently be rented for streaming on Amazon Prime Video.
Or free on Hulu.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Sometimes it pays to procrastinate.
Indeed.
No, I guess it's not free on Hulu. We've gone through that.
Yep.
So I had a fact about it being by the Goodnight Mommy people.
Oh, sorry.
So no, it's okay. You actually have two better facts than I did. So, yet again.
Yep. I found very little written about this movie.
Yeah, there was. One of the things, supposedly the cult in Grace's past is based off of Heaven's Gate.
Yeah, I can see that.
Which had 39 members also committed mass suicide in a communal house with shrouds covering their upper bodies. I was going to ask you, because I know we had talked about like some documentaries about cults, and I had wondered if you knew anything about that one, or if you were aware of that one.
Yeah, I know we watched something on it. I don't remember the details right now, though.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's the facts that I got.
Nice. Yeah, so I thought that they did kind of like the flashbacks of the cult, and then you heard sort of the audio from it throughout the movie. it really reminded me a lot of the recordings of Warren Jeffs.
Oh yeah, yeah.
When we from the documentary I watched about the FLDS church, and just sort of that almost like droney, hypnotic. It just, there's something about it that's very creepy, and is like similar to the way that he talked, and so that's what it reminded me of. It was a really interesting twist to throw the cult thing into this movie, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the same thing. It worked out, like the story kind of all came together in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess just from sort of the way that it was made, like the tone and the color and everything, it felt a lot like Goodnight Mommy, but I also feel like it was a pretty big step forward in just terms of like the quality of the movie making.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I thought that, the setup of all the shots was really good. A lot of the scene transitions and the way that they used the music and sound and everything else through it, I just thought was really good. And I eventually realized the camera angles inside the house kind of reminded me of Paranormal Activity.
Oh.
Where you kind of, it's kind of like switching between rooms, and you have that like view from up above.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like waiting and looking to see if something's going to move, or trying to figure out what's happening. And so I thought that was really good in the way that it was just like shot and put together in a way that was complementary to like the feeling of the movie and like the type of horror it was trying to build.
Yeah. For me, it was, I could definitely see that, the obvious connection to Goodnight Mommy, but what I also thought was Hereditary.
Yes.
Which had like the dollhouse, obviously,
Yeah.
And the dolls and all that. But it definitely reminded me of that, and I thought to myself, like, I bet this was probably an original idea. Hereditary hadn't come out too long ago, but I wonder if, like, when they saw it, if they saw Hereditary, they were like, "Damn, we used that too,"
Yeah, no, I thought it was really effective, and it was kind of interesting, like the foreshadowing and stuff that they did with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was also like, I thought this was also kind of shot, being that it was in a cabin and in the middle of nowhere in the snow. It was shot like almost a little dark, like there weren't too many bright colors. And I thought the same thing kind of about Hereditary as well. Like it was kind of dark and all that. And I'm sure if I can't remember when we watched Hereditary or Goodnight Mommy, if that was 2 seasons ago.
I think so. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, so I didn't necessarily remember it too much. Probably should have looked up on it, but I remember the movie for sure. I just wonder if like how, like, what happened, and I probably said this in that one, but like what happened to the writer from his stepmom?
Exactly. Yeah, like clearly the writers of this movie have mother issues.
Yeah, deep hatred for that.
Yeah. And just one more thing on like kind of the way it was made. I really liked that found footage of the cult and the way that they worked that in.
Yeah.
And when they pull the thing back and there's the duct tape on the mouth that says sin, like just visually that was so good and creepy and
eerie,
effective. Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting way to like set up stuff. And one thing, that we've kind of talked about recently is how a lot of times with the more like slow burn horror movie, you need something like violent or shocking in the beginning to put you on edge a little bit, and that makes the rest of it way more effective. And so with this one, you kind of started with like the mom's suicide, which was really sad and really violent and dark.
Brutal, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so you're already like, like kind of gross feeling because of that. But then you see the stuff about the cult, and then they were very deliberate about not showing the Grace, like showing her face. It was always like you saw her as she was leaving the room, or you saw her like shadow or something. You didn't actually see her until they got together to go out to the cabin.
Yeah.
And so it was almost like building up this other person with this super dark past who maybe somehow you weren't really sure like what to make of her. And I thought that from a movie making perspective, that was an interesting way to keep you like interested and engaged and like off a little bit without having to be like super blatant about it.
Yeah, and the other thing about it was that it kind of painted the picture of like, okay, you kind of knew what you're getting yourself into and all that, but just, and I said this last podcast, but just starting up a movie that's straight out to be a horror movie, there's something great about that, because it's the tone from the beginning is, I mean, obviously it starts off with the cult, the mom suicide and cult, and you know, it just starts off from there, and it's like, okay, like we're getting there. You know, it's okay that it could be a 2-hour movie as long as you know, like, that's what it's set out to do. And I feel like that's what this one did. It definitely set out to be a horror movie, and, you know, got mission accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're exactly right in that the pacing on this one was good. Because you think, you know, an almost 2-hour movie that is like kind of a psychological slow burn, does it really need to be 2 hours? This one, it felt like it did. I mean, it seems like everything that was in it was there for a reason, and it kept moving, and it kept like revealing new things. Yeah. And I just go ahead.
It also did things that I feel like were horrifying. So, you know, well, Tom here, you know, the guy who says, you know, just give me a knife and a crazy person that can't be killed, and I'm good exactly. with horror. But with this one, you know, what this one did that kind of got me, like, it had the horrifying, the cult, that was crazy, the sin, you know, and the mom shooting herself, super, super crazy. But then it had the scene that I thought was extremely terrifying. Extremely, extremely terrifying. And that's after the mom had killed herself, and the daughter's crying on the bed saying she can't go to heaven now. Yeah. And just, like, thinking, like, how terrifying that is for that kid, who that's what she believes. And it's just like, that's what was like, oh my God. Like, it would just give me like almost like chills, like an eerie feeling. It's like, man, this is, it not only started, like, not just the two scenes, it had the one with the daughter crying, talking about her mom can't go to heaven. It's like, golly, that's
it was real dark real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that there was sort of the whole intro, like setting the scene and all of that, and kind of you're picking up on the dynamic of the family, and the dad has the new girlfriend and that he's going to get married to and everything. And then they go out to the cabin, and the kids are opposed to it, but it happens anyway, you know, and then the dad leaves them there. And that really wasn't that much time, but basically from the time he left, things started getting weird. Yeah. And then you were just sort of off kilter, and it was just like sort of accelerating the whole rest of the movie. And so we kind of talked about, like, with The Nun, where it was basically just 2 long nighttime sequences of like haunting. This one was just like one long dark spiral. Yeah. and it kind of started off because, you know, it was very, I guess I would call it like ambient horror in the beginning. Like, yeah, some violent stuff happened and everything felt off, and it had like the dark tone, and she fell in the ice and everything. But then basically as soon as the dad leaves, there's that scene where it's at night and she's there in the cabin and the kids are in bed, and then like the music kicks up, and then you see like this real kind of like out of focus shot of someone like pressing one piano key over and over, and it's super loud, and then she sort of like stumbles into the kids' room and sees them asleep, but then has this flashback to the cult and a dead body in the bed covered with that sash, and then she just wakes up on the floor in her own room. Like, what? Yeah, that was so like unexpected and loud and intense and unexplainable in that moment that it really was attention grabbing and just completely set you up to be on edge for the whole rest of the movie.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes one of my frustrations with movies is them kind of holding your hand, or like, kind of holding your hand. But with this one, and you know, you know, this movie has a twist at the end, and the twist still made sense to me, even with that crazy nightmare scene that she had. Like, but it added to the twist, because like up until then, like, I was having trouble figuring out, like, it's like, okay, well, one of the, you know, something's going on, and trying to figure out, like, is it her, is it, you know, I don't know. just trying to figure out, really kind of think it's the stepmom, and then you find out towards the end, which we'll get to. But I think that really helped out and didn't hurt anything in the movie. Like if they had a random scene where the kids had that nightmare or something like that, right. But it's just, it really helped out the storyline, that scene specifically.
Yeah, and I remember when I first saw this, like leaving the theater, because Sarah and I, we live close enough that it's like a 25-minute walk or a 30-minute walk to Alamo. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times we'll walk to a movie and then walk home and just like talk about the movie on the way back. And with this one, it was just like constantly going back through the scenes like, wait, which ones was something the kids were doing versus which ones were just her like losing her grip on reality, and going back and watching through it again after already knowing the twist, most things fell like very solidly into one category or the other, but it was really hard to know like when it started. And so I think that maybe you were supposed to think that Aiden had put something in that like coffee or tea that he brought her.
Oh yeah, hot chocolate. Yeah.
So I wondered if, but then like what would he have to put in that, because it seemed like most of the kids stuff started afterwards, so maybe they needed her passed out so they could go hide things or whatever. But it's still hard to know like when it really started, like the transition. But I remember too when I first saw it and they were in the living room with that gas heater and she said something about well, should you have that inside? And then they wake up the next day and like things are weird, like missing and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh wow, I bet they're all dead. And then they keep like, you think that the kids have figured that out, and you're like, oh wow, they really are. And then there's that twist at the end where the kids were messing with her, and and so, but then obviously it backfires on them because that sends her into a completely psychotic episode. She kills them all. But it was really, really an interesting thing to think back on, and to like go through it step by step and think what's real, or what is she experiencing versus what are they doing to make her think that she's losing, And so it just, from a replay ability, I thought it was really good.
Well, yeah, after you find out about the twist of them doing that, like I thought back to the scene where they were going, like where the sister said she was cold. Aiden said he was going to go get the gas burner or heater. And I remember like her looking at him, like I just thought it was strange. Like they included that look, like a little extra look towards the end, and then she kind of looked side eye at the mom in a way. Or the stepmom, and I just thought like, that's strange. But is it just this person, or the filmmaker trying to confuse you on who's causing this issue or whatever? I mean, also like, literally, if you're planning on introducing your kids to their stepmom, and then 6 months later saying, hey, you're going to stay in a cabin with them alone, like that's a bad dad move. In a cabin that we used to stay at with your mom who just killed herself. Like that dad was not a good one.
No.
You know another thing that kind of irked me about the dad?
What's that?
When he finally got back to the house, he was trying to reach the stepmom, or he was calling out to the stepmom, and then finally called out to the kids. Oh, yeah. And I was like, who's more important here? Yeah. But,
Yeah, well, it was kind of weird, too, because didn't they say that he wrote a book about the cult that she was part of?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then, if he's an author, why was he having to go into the office during Christmas?
Yeah,
that didn't make much sense to me, but anyway.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think they killed the dog on purpose?
I think what happened was they let it out. They thought it wouldn't go as long as it did, and I don't know. If they did, then they got what they deserve.
Yeah. Well, the little girl seemed like, honestly,
like legit tore up about it.
Yeah, like she had made a mistake and was apologizing, and so I'm going to choose to believe that it was an accident, which allows me to continue liking the movie.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, I don't think that they meant for it to go as far as it did, for sure. As far as the mom's past and her PTSD from all that came back 100%, and I don't see that they expected that to happen. Now, there were a couple things they said, specifically like when they were snuck into their dad's office watching the footage that he got for his book, and he said, "You married a crazy person, someone crazy." But yeah, I don't know. It was almost like it was a tragic, just like a tragic story,
Yeah, it really was.
In horror
yeah.
form.
So the first time when I saw this in the theater, I completely missed that scene, or maybe I just didn't notice it, but with the little like Bluetooth speaker.
Oh yeah. On the windowsill.
Yeah. So that scene showed like the harness that he had used to like fake hang himself.
Yeah.
And then the speaker that was playing that. When I saw it, I didn't notice the speaker. I just noticed the harness, but I just thought it was like rope.
Oh, gotcha.
So I didn't. I thought that was just like a transition shot. Yeah. I didn't pick up on the significance of it. So when you do pick up on the significance of it, it becomes very clear that the kids are just playing a joke and that they're using that same footage and the audio. So she's not hearing the cult leader's voice in her head, presumably. Right. For most of it, she's hearing it play from that. And so the kids really were digging deep into like her most like vulnerable places to mess with her, and that was really like over the top. And so then the idea that they also took her medication away, I mean, it was just a complete disaster.
Yeah, I think the real victim in this is the younger girl. I think she was too young to really understand what's going on.
Agree. Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, those weren't her ideas.
Yeah,
for sure. So
I think with the story, like once I saw the harness and the speaker, I was like, oh, okay, like for sure, confirmed. But what also, like the hidden thing that I didn't notice initially, and Katie actually pointed out, was the scene that it starts off with the in the house, like the dollhouse, is the same scene that the dad sees, where it's the cabin and all the like the dolls laid out, and it's like oh shoot. And I think that's when he realized, which is probably when he went back and asked that's probably why he went back and was just calling for the mom's name, because he had a fear that something bad was happening to her. But yeah, I mean, it's also so like the stepmom does kind of come off like there's a couple scenes where she comes off and it seems like she's kind of evil, like or something's obviously up with her, the random nosebleed, and just I don't know, it's really strange that like she had some strange things where it made you think like, oh, this might be an evil stepmom, stepmom kind of thing. But she also, like, I thought they did a good job of making you feel like empathetic. Yeah, at the cabin for sure. Like when they're at the cabin, 100%. And like she's really trying, and she even got like the presents for the kids, but you can see that she's like nervous about whether or not they're going to like them, and she's putting in an honest effort. Yeah, and then it just goes so far the other direction. Like it goes from her really trying hard to be liked by and develop a relationship with the kids to ultimately, hurting the kids. And really it was just like all this stuff from her past that she hadn't ever fully been able to get away from that is bubbling up to the surface because they made that happen. It's a dark story. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you also have like, you have like her with her nosebleeds. She tries really hard. She has the conversation with Aiden before everything kind of goes down, and like they're at the table, and like you just kind of want to punch that kid because like for sure. She's like, "Can we talk?" And like after he saw her in the shower, and he just pulls off like one headphone and goes back to reading, and like it's like you can't blame that, but like also like Aiden gets an A+ in planning. Even though it's an evil plan, it's like, golly, he thought of everything. Even the paper with their obituaries on there. Yeah. Like, that was definitely, like, that was premeditated. But how crazy was it for you that the evil stepmom's age, she was born in 1989? Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It was right there with us, man.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, oh, she's younger than both of us.
Yeah. It's like anymore, like with NFL players seeing their birthday.
Yeah.
I'm just like, good Lord.
Yeah, NBA is almost worse too. They can
come straight out of high school. Yeah.
But yeah, I saw that and I was like, God, that's even worse of a horror story here.
Exactly. Father time.
Yeah. But like with Stepmom 2, she, was being real cautious of the girl. I don't remember her name, but the sister is what I'm calling her. Mia. Of like, don't get too close. Like, there's a fishing hole there, and then she ends up falling through and stuff. And it's just like she had like some motherly instincts. So she was legit trying to be there for those kids, and definitely get it. Like, it was crazy, like the suicide for their mom. Luckily, they didn't have to see it. And for the mom to put her hatred towards the stepmom towards the kids, just because she was still in love with the husband,
right?
Is still crazy in itself. It's
There wasn't really anybody to feel like super good about in the movie, except maybe Mia. But yeah, and I thought like that whole ending sequence. I mean, from the time. Because there's a scene I really liked where she's going through the house with the flashlight after like the power's out at night, and she sees that the window's open and looks out and sees like those rows and rows of snow angels in the moonlight, and then starts hearing those clips of the cult leader's voice. That I thought was such a good setup and was so creepy, and really just from that point on, it was just like a roller coaster. Like you had hit the top and it was just all downhill from there.
Yeah,
and I thought. So another scene that stood out to me in that sequence was when she pulls the log out of the fire and then like kneels on it.
Oh God, yeah.
That was so painful to watch.
Because she's like kind of screeching too with it.
Oh yeah, it's like clearly like very, very painful. And then the ending scene where they're inside the house and they're all at the dinner table, including the dad's corpse. And Grace says a prayer and then starts singing Nearer My God, and the kids are crying. Yeah. And then they start singing along, and then she puts the duct tape with sin on their mouths. And then it cuts to that same close-up of the gun as from the beginning of the movie. And then it's just finished. Yeah. Like, baller move. That was such a tight ending.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, with this movie, one thing that we've talked about that, that no one makes it out alive, kind of that's the horror aspect. It's funny because as it got towards the end, like my ending notes, I have dad walks in, says Grace first, what about the kids, and then I have just kills dad, and then I liked it. Talking about the movie, but because you don't see, like, they're trying to convince them at that point, and what the kids were trying to convince her at that point, like, hey, like, it was just a joke. It's not purgatory. Like, this is just a joke, and then it was like, well, you little shits. Gee, what do you want? Like, you don't know what you're messing with here, and this lady's obviously kind of lost it. Now, would she have lost it down the road if she randomly didn't have medicine? Who knows? Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. Like, from the start to finish, like, this movie grabs your attention. The suicide with the biological mom was so gnarly. Yeah. Like, she sits down, drinks wine. It's like she's thinking it, like, almost like she's kind of processing things before, like she kind of straightens some stuff up, and then literally pulls the gun from the purse, shoots herself. Just boom, boom.
Just immediate.
And it's like, oh, shit. Okay.
It reminded me of that scene in Hereditary where Charlie's sticking her head out the window.
Yeah.
Like that death scene where it just kind of slaps you in the face. That's what it reminded me of.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
It's just very abrupt and very dark and very like, holy crap, what just happened? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. And also, here's another thing. I did not see the movie ending the way it did. Like, I see them convincing, and then, like, the mom going crazy, and then dad coming back and kind of saving the day. Yeah. That's, like, legit what I figured would happen. Well, that's not the case at all. Like, you have dad's dead now. He's at the table with them at the end. Dead, hole in his head. And it's just like, holy cow, like this is intense. They try to run away and it doesn't work, but so to tie this in to the current state of horror, I think we have a couple things that we've kind of touched base on, or that we've kind of talked about before. But this was a small cast.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 6 people, maybe, or 5 people. It had 2 moms, dad, and 2 kids.
Yeah.
Like that's all I remember seeing in the movie. And then you also deal with mental illness / religious things. It's all kind of tying together,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very like of the times, I guess.
Yeah.
On that, but sort of that very dark, kind of moody, horror movie tone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, like you said, you could draw some similarities just in like the way that the movie was put together.
Yeah.
With now, I think this was like a very, very like good example, but like Hereditary and the Conjuring movies and stuff. There seem to be some like directorial similarities in the way that it's presented as a horror movie, and I thought it was just great. I really enjoyed this movie a lot, I'm super excited to see if this director writer duo, to see what they do next.
Yeah, I mean this is definitely high up there for me. Like this is buy-worthy movie for me.
Yeah.
I would definitely definitely buy this movie. It from start to finish, it's good. You know what's crazy about me too? Last thing I have is I want to be at a snowy cabin during Christmas time so bad. I think I'd put up with like a crazy stepmom.
Yeah. Like, yeah. As long as the power was still on, I'd be down.
Yeah. Well, even then, stuff goes missing. I'd find it because I can track people in the snow.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
Where do these footsteps go to? Huh. I guess that stuff was hidden in the house, but still. Instead
of the cult leaders, they'd be playing. Was it Any Way You Want It? What was it you got in trouble for playing at the church?
Oh, yeah. Stairway to Heaven, and then Any Way You Want It by Journey. Yeah. Got in trouble playing in youth group. I played Stairway to Heaven, got in trouble, played Any Way You Want It after that, and got basically cussed out in the church in a way. But, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got busted for Final Countdown.
Yeah. That's why, like, I think these kind of hit home for me. I see that girl crying. That's why it hit home, because it's like, I understand that. That's how it would have been for me. Like, it's not only you're not only having to deal with the loss of your mother, you're also dealing with. Yeah, you also have to think like she lost her mom, and she's also dealing with the religious aspect of like her not being in heaven. And it's just like, oh man, sad. But
yeah. The one thing, a thought that I had coming away from it was that she didn't really make it out.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Like, because there was such a big thing built up in the beginning about one person escaped or one person got away, but she didn't really in the end.
Yeah. That's the other thing it kind of ties into is prescription pills. It seems like the last couple. Prescription pills are definitely involved, especially, I mean, even in The Wind, back that was set in pioneer days, still had it,
Getting chloroform.
Yeah, chloroform, and she was taking those random pills from the glass jar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But all in all, this is a fantastic movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yep, this was a good one for sure. This one will probably go, like, in my top 50 list for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.